Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Let's continue with exercise number 12. It says ta'ammal, reflect, and when we connect it with al, then we have to put kasra. Ta'ammal al-amthilata lidhanika wa tanika. As we know, in this lesson, we are dealing with the dual and asma'ul ishara for dual. First, we have learned that hada, and for hada we use hadani, and hadani, hadaini, they are flexible. And similarly for dhalika, we use dhanika, and for tilka we use dhanika. So dhanika is basically the dual for dhalika, those two, and tanika is the dual for those two for the feminine, and it is the dual for tilka. So dhalika, dual is dhanika, and tilka, the dual is tanika. Now if we look at the examples here, hada kitabun, this is a book. Hadani kitabani, so these two are books. So as we know that hadani is mubtada and kitabani is khabar, and mubtada and khabar are always equal in number and gender, two things. So hadani means two, it's mubtada, that's why kitabani is also two, and it is khabar. Hadihi siyaratun, this is a car, mubtada and khabar, and if we want to say these are two cars, it will be hatani siyaratani, these are two cars. So hada for masculine singular, lil qarib, something that is nearby. Hadani for dual, for two things that are nearby. Hadihi for singular masculine feminine, and then we have hatani for the dual feminine, lil qarib, that are nearby. Dhalika qalamun mubtada, dhalika mubtada, qalamun khabar, that is a pen, and if we want to say those two are pens, we will say dhalika qalamani, those two are pens. Dhalika, and the plural dual of dhalika is dhanika. Then we have tilka, madrasatun, that is a school, and as we know that tilka is used for feminine, that's why this is mubtada and madrasatun is khabar, which is also feminine, and the dual will be tanika madrasatani, those two are schools. Now we have more examples. Hada akhi, this is my brother. Wa dhalika sadiqi, and that is my friend. Hadani kitabaya, and these two are my books. Wa dhanika kitaba zamili, and those two books are for my friend or for my colleague. Hatani al-hafilatani, so now here this is a complete construction. It's called ishara and musharun ilayh. So when we have hatani or hadani, and after that we have al, this construction is always together, and it means these two. If we don't have al, then it will be mubtada and khabar. But if we have al, then it is not mubtada and khabar, it is ishara and musharun ilayh, and some grammarians, they say this is badal and this is the mubdal minhu. So hatani al-hafilatani, and then this is mubtada, and then the khabar is tasirani, and this khabar is basically verbal sentence, and basically the pronoun that we have inside it, which is huma, so this is basically khabar, tasirani ila al-jamiati, these two buses go to the university, watanika ila al-matari, and those two to the airport. Liman hadhihi ad-dafatiru, whose, again here, liman, we can see that this is jar majroor. So jar majroor cannot be mubtada, so this is khabar, and hadhihi ad-dafatiru, these notebooks. So ad-dafatir, because it's a feminine, it's a masculine, feminine plural, so that's why it will be hadhihi. So hadhihi ad-dafatiru liman, and because liman requires to come in the beginning of the sentence, that's why we have liman hadhihi ad-dafatiru, whose notebooks are these. Here they are lidainika talibaini, for those two students. Now why dhanika has changed into dainika? Because of li, harf jar li. So when we have harf jar li, then it becomes, it has to be majroor. So we know that the asma al-ishara for the dual, they are flexible, they are declinable. So dhanika has changed into dhainika because of li. These are for those two students. لون تينك سيارتين جميل. So the whole of this part will be mubtada, and then this will be khabar. So we know that lawn is mudaf, and that's why tainika is mudaf ilayh. That's why it is majroor, or that's why it's majroor. And tainika is ishara, and sayyarataini because it's for the feminine. That's why we have musharun ilayh is also for the feminine. Launu tainika sayyarataini, the color of those two cars, jamilun, is beautiful. Laun is singular masculine, that's why the khabar is also singular masculine. قال الله تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said or says in the Quran, لموسى, to Musa alayhi salamu, فذلك برهانان من ربك إلى فرعون وملئه. So as we can see here now, فذلك, so this will be mubtada and burhanani will be khabar. These two are proofs from your Lord to Pharaoh and his chiefs. And in the previous lesson, we have discussed that in the Quran, the translation of Asma al-Ishara can be replaceable. So it could be translated as these, and also it can be translated as those. Do you remember the example that we discussed in the previous lesson? ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ, if you look at different translations, in some translations you will find this book, and in some translations you will find that book. Exercise number 13, ضَعْ فِي الْفَرَاغِ. So it will be basically put in the blanks. So we will say fill in the blanks. Fi ma. Fi means inside, and ma, as we know, this is ma al-mawsula. Alladhi. Ya'ti, that comes. Isma asharatin, the demonstrative pronoun. Munasiban, suitable. Lil ba'idi, for the distance. Fill in the blank in each of the following sentences with a suitable demonstrative pronoun indicating distance. Hada baiti wa baitu akhi. So what will be the answer? Dhalika. Excellent. Hada baiti wa dhalika baitu akhi. Hadani akhawaya. These two are my brothers.
Zalika, Ustad.
Two. Zamilaya. It was basically Zamilani. And the noon has been dropped. Now we have to use the ishara for ba'id, lil ba'id. Distance. So that's why we use dhalika. Hada baiti, this is my house. Wa dhalika baitu akhi. And that is the house of my brother. Similarly, hadani akhawaya. These two are my brothers. Wa Dhanika, Zamilaya, and those two are my colleagues. Hatani bintaya, these two are my daughters. Wa
Tanika
binta ukhti, and those two are the daughters of my sister. Iftah hadain al-babaini, open these two doors. And now we can see why it is hadaini. Because it is in the place of maf'ul bihi. Iftah, fail plus fa'il, and the complete construction is maf'ul bihi, and we know maf'ul bihi is always mansub, so that's why it has changed into hadaini. We know that the asma al-ishara for dual, they are declinable. Iftah hadain al-babaini, open these two doors. Wala taftah, and don't open
Tanika.
babaini. It's babaini, so babaini will be dhainika, isn't it?
Okay.
Dhainika, yeah. So don't open, because please remember, if you look at the instructions, we have to use isma ishara lil ba'id. So we have to focus only on the ba'id. That is for the that indicates distance, to indicate distance. So we are using for distance. So for distance, we use dhalika, and for the dual, we use dhanika and dhainika. Ya waladu, اغسل هاتين السيارتين. Wash these two cars. لا تغسل, don't wash.
Tainika.
Tainika, ahsant. Yeah, this will be tainika. And don't open, don't wash those two. هذه مضارعة and مضارع الأفعال الآتية. And now we have to provide the present tense for the following verbs. سحب, if you remember, to withdraw.
Yes, Abu.
يسحب, سحب يسحب. Basically, it's used for withdrawing money from the bank or from the ATM machine. غمض basically means to close the eyes. And this is verb form number 2. Yes.
Yugammadu.
يغمض يغمض.
Yugammidu.
سبح يسبح. غمض يغمض. كفى, it is ناقص. كفى
Kafa yakfi.
يكفي. Excellent. كفى يكفي. And the most controversial, ضاع
Daga yadihu.
يضيع. Yes, to be lost. So it means to be lost. So it's a passive verb. It gives the meaning of passive. So that means it will be translated as
So it's not
to
a
be lost.
default verb, is that like he lost or something like that? It is like we have to translate it as
It was lost, and it will be translated as passive. Yeah, something that was
why
lost.
it is like that? Okay, then what will be the default verb for huwa? It is the same thing, and it is
No, actually, in Arabic language, if you lose something by yourself, or even in the Quran, it will be adaa yudiyu. So we have to take it into verb form number 2 or 4. So if you take it into verb form number 2, it will be ضيع يضيع. سبح يسبح. ضيع يضيع. And if you want to tell someone, don't waste your time, لا تضيع وقتك. That's number 1.
Okay.
Or we can take it to verb form number 4, which will be أضاع يضيع. Yeah, so it's in Surah Al-Maryam.
like adalla.
Yes, like Adallah, yeah.
He himself led astray, something like that.
Yeah, Dalla, he went astray, and Adallah means to lead someone astray. Yes.
Okay.
So if you say, I lost my way, dalaltu tariqi. Dalla, from when you lose something by yourself. So, and if you want to say that my friend or someone made me lose my way, and then I will say, Adallah tariqi, and he made me lose my way.
Okay.
فَأَضَلَّهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ. So shaitan basically led
me astray.
Yeah, both huma referring to Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam. فَأَضَلَّهُمَ الشَّيْطَانِ. That shaitan led both of them astray. So they didn't go astray, they were led astray by someone.
Even in Surah Al-Muhammad, Ustad,
yes.
فَأَضَلَّ أَعْمَالَهُم. So
Yes.
Allah will,
Allah will make their good deeds waste. Yes.
Okay.
And we have in the Quran, يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا. يضل يعني أضل يضل يعني most of the people will be misguided by it. And those who are who have like on their hearts they have a curtain. So of course, when they will be reciting the Quran or reading the Quran with a different perspective, then of course they will be lost. Then we have Hati Jam'a al-Asma al-Atiyati. Now we have to provide the plural of the following nouns. Arika, very famous in the Quran. Araik. In the Quran, Arika is not used, but the plural Araiku is used. And Araiku, please remember that this is Mamnu min as-sarf. Why? Because it's on the pattern of Mafa'ilu. Mafa'ilu. Araiku. Then we have Mablagh, used for the amount. Mablagh, if you remember that, it is on the pattern of Dharf, Zaman or Makan. Yeah. So remember I told you that all of them, they have the plural on the pattern of Mafa'ilu.
So Mabalighu.
Mabalighu, ahsanti, yes, Mabalighu. Ajir, used for the wages, yes.
Jiran?
No, Jiran is for the neighbor.
Neighbor.
Jaran and Jiranan. Ajir will be Ujra'u. Yes, Ujra'u. And
this was also Mamnun min as-sarf, I think.
It shouldn't be.
Because the last but one is a mud letter. I guess it is something like that.
All right.
Because
So
fukrao, it is like fukrao.
fuqara'u, that's right, on the pattern fa'ala'u. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have siwar.
Suwar.
La siwar, this is for the bracelet. We have
Okay.
discussed in the previous lesson. It has two plurals. It has the plural of aswiratun wa asawiru. You remember?
Yes. Yeah. That was,
Aswiratun wa asawiru. Both of them have been used in the Quran. I will just show you the examples now.
Yeah.
So there will be the plural of bracelets like bangles. So both of them, it has two patterns. Aswiratun is declinable, but asawiru is not declinable. Asawiru is indeclinable, or we can say that is rigid or that is not flexible. Hissatun, period. Hissasun, periods. Hissasun, periods. Then it says Hati mufrad al asma'il atiyati. And now we have to give the singular. Mufrad is singular. What is the difference between wahid and mufrad?
Mufrad is singular, wahid is one.
One, yeah. So sometimes people say wahid jama', so that's wrong to say. Normally in Urdu we say wahid jama', so that is wrong because wahid means one and mufrad means singular. So here we are talking about singular and plural. So the opposite of mufrad will be jama', singular and plural. So that's why we have to use as mufrad and not, we don't have to say wahid. Mufrad, and because hati is fi'l al-amr, and that's why it is maf'ul bihi, it has fatha, and this is mudaf, and then that's why both of them are mudaf ilayh. Hunudun, okay, the answers are already there for you. So hunudun, and the singular will be hindiyun. Hindiyun.
Yeah. Yes, is that correct?
Yeah, and Indian and Indians, hunudun. So basically it is tanween over there. Then we have dawlatun, and the plural of dawlatun is dualun. Dualun, countries. Dualun. And then we have fakihatun, and the plural of fakihatun is indeclinable. Fawakihu. Fawakihu, because it is on the pattern of mafa'ilu. That's why it is fawakihu on the pattern of mafa'ilu. Mamnu min as-sarf. And we have here some examples. For example, in the Quran we have على الأرائك ينظرون, Surah Al-Mutaffifin. هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. So this is the second last ayah of the Surah Mutaffifin. That's right. Yeah. So yes. So the plural of arikat will be arikatun, will be araiku, as we can see here. And we know that this is mamnu min as-sarf, but when we use al with that, then it will accept kasra.
Declinable.
Yes, it will be declinable. And then we have the example of aswiratun. فَلَوْلَا أُلْقِيَ عَلَيْهِ أَسْوِرَةٌ, as we can see here. So siwarun, and the plural, it has two plurals. So number one is here, aswiratun min dhahabin aw jaa ma'ahu al-malaikatu muqtarinin, and then we have وَحُلُّوا أَسَاوِرَ مِنْ فِضَّةٍ وَسَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا. Surah Al-Insan. One of my favorite surahs, of course, all of them, but there are some surahs that we like to or love to read or to memorize. Yeah, and wahullu, it's basically, this is also like on the pattern of maf'ul. It's passive, yes.
Yeah.
And they will be made to wear bracelets from the silver. Wasaqahum, and
made to drink, or satisfied with a drink.
Saqa, he will make them. Wasaqahum, he will make them drink. Who will make them drink? Rabbuhum. So wasaqahum rabbuhum sharaban tahura, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them drink purified sharab, any kind of drink. That is, yes. نسأل الله أن يجعلنا من المقبولين. So inshallah, and من هؤلاء الناس, those who will go to Jannah, and inshallah. Inshallah, ya Rab. Then we have the amr of atayati is iti. Atayati is iti. It was originally iti. How it was iti? Because we have, for example, if we say we have ta'ti, and when we want to make fi'l al-amr, you know how to make fi'l al-amr now, yeah? So please tell me what are the steps. Number one, the ending has to be
Make it the ending as
sakin, yeah?
yeah, sakin.
Sakin, and
And
then
drop the mudare.
and we have to drop mudare. So now we have to add hamzatul wasl to read it. Atayati, it's not from bab nasara yansuru. So that's why, that means before this we have to add hamzatul wasl with kasra, right? So now
Yes,
what we have over here, we have a combination of two hamzas. So this is basically hamzatul wasl, and you know that hamzatul wasl, when we connect it, we also don't read it, right? But if we don't connect it and we want to read it, then of course we will read it with hamzatul wasl. So it will be, for example, now we have to see over here why iti has become iti. If two hamzas meet, the first having a vowel and the second having none, and we have discussed about this. For example, the first one has vowel and the second one doesn't have anything. The second hamza is omitted and the vowel of the first gets a compensatory lengthening. So what happens basically when we have a hamza that is mutaharrik and the one that is after that is sakin, then the sakin will change into al-mad. It becomes yeah, so it will be because we have fatha before it. So if we have fatha before it, it becomes Allahu. We have discussed this example. And then if hamza is sakin and there is kasra before it, then it changes into e. And when we have hamza has dhamma, yeah, to compensate it. And when we have dhamma, and then the next hamza is sakin, then it changes into wow. Because we know wow is compatible with dhamma, ya is compatible with kasra, and mad is compatible with basically alif. Hamza is compatible with mad, so it becomes so it's e u. That's why here, because we have iti, it's for two reasons. Number one, it's difficult to read. And number two, because the rule we have seen over here, so that's why it has become ET. And the same information we have here in Arabic now. Al-amru min atayati ET. So fi'l al-amr from atayati is ET. Asluhu, the original form is ET. Yeah, and then we have seen over here, because we have the first hamza has kasra and the second one has sakin. So it will change into E, as we can see over here. So it becomes E. ولكن همزة الثانية تعود, but the second hamza comes back. So that is the second hamza over here. When does it come back? بعد الواو والفاء. So after waw and fa, the second hamza, which is sakin, it comes back. So for example, when we say waqti and bring, so because now we have to connect it, yeah, so now the second hamza comes back. Similarly, fa'ti, and the second hamza has come back. So that's what we need to be careful about. Why it comes back? ذلك لأن الهمزة الأولى في هذه الحالة تحذف, because in this situation the first hamza will be dropped.
During that time.
Yeah, في النطق, during the pronunciation. لاحظ يلاحظ ملاحظة. Note أن همزة الأمر, that hamza of amr or hamza of command, تحذف, it is dropped في الكتابة, in writing, أيضا also في هذه الكلمة, in this letter. So only in this letter the hamza, which is hamzatul amr, also gets dropped in writing. So it was, instead of saying wa'ati, it becomes wa'ti. So the hamza that was here, yeah, this hamza has been dropped. So this one has been dropped and the sakin hamza has been retained. And we know that when hamza is sakin, then we will read it with a small jerk. So it will be wa'ti and fa'ti. Wa'ti and fa'ti. If you look at the examples over here now, it says ata bishai ay ahdarahu. So ata means to come, but when it comes with the preposition of ba, it means to bring. So ata bishai means he came with something. Ay is harf tafsir. It's basically used to explain. Yani it means like, yes, yeah. Ahdarahu, ahdara yuhdiru ihdaran, to bring. Yani he brought it. Taqulu, you say, ma ataytu al-yawma bidaftar nahwi. I didn't bring the notebook of grammar or syntax today. So ma ataytu al-yawma bi. So basically when you bring the preposition of bi, then it changes from coming to bring. So I didn't bring the book of syntax today. Prophet Tanzili, and in the Quran, قال Ibrahim alayhi salam said, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْتِي بِالشَّمْسِ مِنَ الْمَشْرِقِ فأتي بها من المغرب. So here أتى يأتي, so it's the regular form, but when we have يأتي بي, so he brings up, yeah, so it means brings up, and the sun من المشرق, from the east. فأتي, so it's فعل الأمر now over here. فأتي, so bring it. فأتي بها, so bring it من المغرب, from the west. And قال ذلك لنمرود ممنوع من الصرف, and he said that to Namrud. Yes, and basically the usage of this verb atayati is like it's used a lot in the Quran. Sometimes it is used with the harf jar bi. Yes, ituni bi kitabin min qabli hadha wa tharati min ilm. So sometimes it comes with harf jar bi. So when it comes with harf jar bi, it means to bring, and when it comes without harf jar bi, that means it means come, to come. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. هل أتاك. Yeah, so did the news of غاشية, the day of judgment, come to you. Yeah. And also there is another beautiful thing about this verb. This verb is lazim, but sometimes it behaves as transitive and sometimes it behaves as intransitive. So ata, he came. Atani, he came to me. Normally with the lazim verb, we don't use object. We don't use the object directly to that, right? For example, dhahaba, he went. We cannot say dhahabani. That's not possible to say, right? Jalasa, jalasani is not possible to say. But there are few verbs, I think I told you before. For example, ata, jaa, wasala. So 3 of them. There are like 5 or 6 of them. They are lazim. They don't need object. Yeah, but in the Quran or like in Arabic, they have been used both as transitive and intransitive, depending on how it is used. And I've given you the example from the Quran. Hal ataka hadith al-ghashiya? Ataka. It is used directly to you. Did the news of the day of judgment come to you? And similarly, here we have with the preposition of be. So here it means to bring. So فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْتِي بِالشَّمْسِ. So brings up the sun. So when it comes with the preposition of be, it means to bring. And when it is used without the preposition of be, then it means simply to come. Yes, to come. All right, so now we are done with the lesson. So here are some examples for you for the possession for dual and plural noun when the noon has been dropped, when they are used as mudaf. So example of possession for dual and plural, because this is where we started our lesson from. And this is one of my favorite topics. And also this construction is used a lot in the Quran. So that's why we have a little bit more examples. So here we have ithna ashara. So do you remember the original construction?
Ithnani
ashara. So inna iddatu shuhuri inda Allah ithna ashara shahran, 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah, so ithna will change into ithnay. And similarly, ithnata is used for feminine and it will change into ithnatay. So whenever it is used as mudaf alayh, then for ithnani, and then the noon will be dropped. So it will be ithna and ithnay. And similarly, it will be ithnatani and ithnatay. And we have discussed this in this book in lesson number 1. I hope you remember now. Then we have dhira'ihi, both of its legs or both of its arms. وَكَلْبُهُمْ وَاسِطُونَ ذِرَاعِهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. So it was basically dhira'aini. And then you know that because it is used as mudaf ilayh, and that's why the noon has been dropped. Ya sahibai, it was sahibani. Sahibani, sahibaini, sahibaini. Why it is used as sahibaini? Why it is sahibai?
Because it is with his ya al-mutakallim
as mudaf as well.
Excellent. So it's basically mudaf ilayh, but we have harf nida before it. So when we have harf nida before it, then it is always, the mudaf is always used as mansub. It will always be mansub. So it was ya sahibai, and when we connect al, we connect it with kasra.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Ya sahiba yastijni. Ya sahiba yastijni. And then we have, so these are the examples of dual. And now we have the examples of plural. Innaraduhu. So please give me the noun or give me the original verb of this.
Radda. Radda.
Radda.
This is Radda.
Excellent.
And
Radda
this is ism
yaruddu.
file, I think.
Ismul
Ismul
fa'il.
fa'il, yes.
This is ism file.
Raduna, and noon has been dropped. And you remember that we have discussed that when
That it will be the plurals will we have to just add waw and noon for them.
yeah, the
Beside
noon
that.
will be dropped, yes. And for other than the attached pronouns, we have to add alif. This is restricted to the Quran only. But whenever we have attached pronouns, you know that the alif is not added, even if it is past tense. We don't have to add alif to that. So for example, we say darabuhu. So darabu, we know that normally after that we add alif to that, darabu. But when you have the attached pronoun, then we don't have to add alif to that. And the same rule is used over here. Inna radduhu ilayka wa ja'iluhu min al-mursaleen. So it was basically ja'iluna.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to Musa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Qasas, that we will return him back to you and we will make him among the mursaleen, among the prophets. Then we have قوله تعالى مهطعين مقنعي رؤوسهم. مقنعي, is it marfu or mansub or majrur?
It's past.
No, it's Ismul fa'il and it's
Ismul fa'il,
it
ahsant,
does-
yes.
or mansub or majrur.
It's mansub because it's the sifa for muhtaina. Una, ina.
Yes.
Basically, because we don't know the background of the verse, because when we analyze the text of the Quran, inshallah, then we will see that sometimes there is atf of jumla ila jumla. So sometimes the whole sentence is given atf. So we don't know from the background. So it could be mansub, it could be majroor, because
Yes.
una,
We don't know
una,
what's
ina, yeah. So una, ina. But we know that this is the sifa of muhtaina, and also, yeah, and it is mudaf for ru'usihim.
Mudaf.
Yeah, so this is mudaf, and ru'usihim is again mudaf ilayh, right?
Mudaf and mudaf ilayh.
Yeah, excellent. So that's why the noon has been dropped. Perfect. Then we have ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ أَهْلُهُ حَاضِرِي, and when we connected حَاضِرِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ, so it is حَاضِرِي. This one, yes, ina. So this one maybe you can figure out.
This is ism file, Ustad.
Ismul fa'il.
Of course, yeah, but is it marfu or mansub or majroor?
Is this majroor?
Look at the verb yakun.
It's Ismu kana.
Khabaru kana, because in yakun,
Khabaru kana.
yeah, so khabaru kana is always mansub.
So it's mansub.
Mansub, excellent. So now because we know why it is mansub,
Hadirina it will be.
yes,
Yeah.
hadirina, yeah. Here we don't know because we don't know the verse, the context of the verse, but here we are able to figure out. So because we know kana has ismu kana and khabaru kana, so ismu kana will be inbuilt huwa, and khabaru kana will be hadirina, and it will be hadiri, then the noon will be dropped, hadiril masjidil haram. And now I have some special surprise for you. الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم والصابرين على ما أصابهم والمقيم الصلاة. So here it is also mudaf. And this is a special mudaf. Only one example of this mudaf has been used in the Quran. And there are many explanations behind that, but I would say that we could restrict only to the idea that this is an exception. Because mudaf alayh, the most common is the one that we are using in the Quran, the one that we have discussed in this lesson. Then this is a special kind of mudaf alayh, where it can take al. So the only thing that you need to know that sometimes it can take al, but we don't know when and why. But as of now, we know that there is one example in the Quran. And similarly, there is another mudaf alayh, which is called al-hikaya, where mudaf alayh doesn't change. Only I will give you the example, for example, the names of the surahs of the Quran, for example, Suratul Kafirun or Suratul Mu'minun. And I think there is another surah like this, which has also like ends with una. So these, because the names of the surahs, all the names of the surahs are mudaf ilayh. But when we see Suratul Kafirun, it should be Suratul Kafirin. right? Una, ina, inan. But this is called Irab al-Hikaya. Just the name is over there. And that means that for that mudaf ilayh, it wouldn't change. So for example, you say, Ja'a abuka, Ra'aytu abuka, and Jalastu ma abuka. But as I said, that's like the discussion of the grammarians when they don't go too deep into these things. And we know that our scope is Quran and Hadith. So in the Quran, only two things we need to know. That number one, we can say that this is a special case in the Quran, number one. And I guess, I think this is Surah Al-Hajj. And number two, the names of the surahs, Surah Al-Kafirun, wa Surah Al-Munafiqun, and Surah Al-Mu'minun. Yes, Munafiqun, Mu'minun, and Kafirun. These three, they are mudaf alayh, but over there, mudaf alayh is indeclinable, or it is mabni. Why? Because that is a different kind of mudaf alayh. However, in the Quran, that hasn't been used, and this is only one example. So that means 99.9% examples that we have in the Quran are the ones that have been used, or that we have discussed, or we have learned in the lesson. So that's why we only need to know about this. But how to give, why it happened and when it happened, if you want to go further into that, please try to figure that out by yourselves, inshallah. And if you want to discuss, then we can discuss that in the group. Then we have vocabulary. I was just thinking today that we always say vocabulary. What is the Arabic of vocabulary? Does anyone know? Now, this is one of the ways, or one of the things that
that is not something.
One of the things that inspired me to learn Arabic, that whenever I would see something in English, I would try to translate it into Arabic. That's my habit or second nature. What's the Arabic?
Mufradat.
Al-Mufradat, that's right, yeah. We say, basically the Arabs, they use the word Al-Mufradat. Mufrad means one word, and Mufradat, as we have discussed, singular and Mufradat will be the plural of that. That means the words that have been put together. So they use the word Al-Mufradat. So the vocabulary al-mufradat that we have over here today, alin, bisawtin alin, in a loud voice or loudly. So alin.
This is ism manfus.
Can you give me the root letters?
Ism manfus. Yeah, it is.
Excellent.
Yeah, this naqis ustad.
Yeah. Yes, it's naqis wawi.
Yeah.
Ala ya'lu. Ala ya'lu, ala wa ya'lawu, and then it becomes da'a yad'u. It's on the pattern of da'a yad'u. So ism al-fa'il will be alin, bisawtin alin, in a loud voice or loudly. Muqaddasun, ism al-fa'il or ism al-maf'ul? Qaddasa yuqaddisu taqdisan. So
muqaddis is ism fa'il, and muqaddas is ism
maf'ul. Yes. Then we have ishalun for diarrhea, hissatun, period, and the plural is hissasun, ijtima'un, and the hamza of ijtima' is hamzatul wasl. We need to know this. So it will be ijtima'atun. That's why here they have not put anything over here. So it's basically ijtama'a yajtami'u ijtima'an. Then we have arikatun. Yes, arikatun. Araiku. This is not hamzatul wasl. This is hamzatul qata', yes. So whenever we read it, whenever it is written in the Quran, we have to read it. We don't have to. So even if we have wa or fa before it, we have to read it. Na'lan, sandal, and it's feminine in Arabic, and the plural is ni'alan. So as we discussed, there is a category of the Arabic where we don't, it's like majazi, we don't know the reason why it is feminine. It's because the Arabs said so. Like Shamsun, and similarly Sama'un, Ardun, Narun, Jahannamun, Jahimun, yes, Dalwan, yes, bucket, Be'run, used for the well. So most of the ones that have been used is similarly Khamrun, or any names of Khamrun that are also feminine. So, or Rihun, also any kind of Samumun, Badun, Rihun, all the names of the winds and all the names of the fire. They are feminine. Yeah, they are feminine. So those are the categories, if you remember, I think we discussed in the beginning when we started learning Arabic. So those categories, if you remember them, there was one category, as we said, the Arabs said so, because this is how they said it. So that category this is also included. Do you remember we had like, there was another
Even the Asa of Musa alayhi
asa,
salam, that is also
asa, yeah,
feminine.
that's right. Asa, kasun is also feminine. Asa is feminine.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Right. Yadun is feminine. Ainun is
that's
feminine.
because it's paired.
Rijlun
That's
is
it's
feminine.
paired.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. All right. Ajirun, laborer, and then we have the plural is ujara'u. So it is on the pattern of fu'ala'u. Fu'ala'u, ujara'u. Fuqara'u, similarly we have ulama'u, and similarly we have ujara'u. All right, that's why it is mamnu min as-sarf. Umlatun, used for the currency, and then we have umalatun. Siwaran, we've just discussed that it has two plurals, and both of the verses from the Quran, we have discussed both of them. Then we have dawlatun for the country, and dualun on the pattern of fu'alun. Mablaghun, mabalighu. It's basically, it means the place to reach, isn't it? Balagha yablughu, fahuwa balighun, and ismal ala will be miblagh, yes, and dharf will be mablagh. So the place to reach, like when you reach, when you acquire something, basically it's the meaning in the context of acquiring something. So when we acquire something, that's why it is called like sum of money or amount. It's because we acquire it or we get it. So that could be the reason. And the plural is mabalighu. Why is the plural mabalighu?
Ustad, this is because on the scale of mafailu,
Mafailu.
all the
Why?
all the zarf are like on the pattern of zarf are.
And also ismul ala.
Ustad, I wanted to say something. This mabalighu, it's like something attaining or like puberty also. It's something is used like this.
Baligh, yes. Baligh has like around, I think around.
So it's in the
It's used
same
in-
scale, Ustad, like for attaining puberty also, something like that.
Yes, for
like-
baligh, that's right. Yes, it's like
Okay.
used in the Quran in 6 to 8 different contexts. I have it in my dictionary. If we have some time, we can discuss about it. It's one of the beautiful verbs, like it has multiple uses. Then we have masadu. It's the name of the 111th surah of the Quran. Literally means palm fiber, and it will be the rope habl will be in the neck of the wife of Abu Lahab. All right. Then we have raqmun, and the plural is arqamun. Mura'at, ra'a, yura'i, mura'atun. It's on the pattern of basically, yes. Jahada, yujahidu, mujahadatan.
Mubalaghatun.
Yes, balagha, yubalighu, mubalaghatan. That's right. So it's, then we have considering or bearing in mind. Lahabun is used for the flame. And Abu Lahabin, literally meaning the man of flame. Okay, now we also need to know that in Arabic, Abu doesn't necessarily mean father.
Yeah.
Until now,
Like
we know
Abu
that
Huraira.
Abu
Like
Huraira. Abu Huraira.
yeah.
So it's used for kunya.
And Abu Bakr. Yeah.
Abu Bakrin, yes. So it's something that when you want to associate someone with something, so the Arabs also, they use the word Abu. Abu Turab, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used for Ali radiallahu anhu. So it could be used to associate someone with something as well. So in this context, there are some people, they have misinterpreted the tafsir of the Quran as well by saying that he was the father of fire. How could he be Abu Lahab as well? So there are some deviants as well. However, now we can understand that Abu could be used as a biological father, and it could also mean association of someone with something, or it could be kunya, as we say. So Abu Lahab, literally meaning the man of flame. It was the nickname of Abu Azza. Abu Azza, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was so named for his ruddy complexion because he was very red. So that's why they used to call him. Yes, that's why they used to call him Abu Lahab. Hindiyun, and the plural is Hunudun, Indians. What will be the plural of Pakistaniyun? Pakistaniyun, Amerikiyun, Misriyun. So most of them, they have the plural on the pattern of some plural, una, ina, ina. Pakistani Yuna and Pakistani Yina. So similarly, we have Hawariyuna. Yeah, Misri Yuna. Whereas this one is a little bit different. It is broken plural, we can say, Hindiyun and Hunudun. Nutqun, nataqa, yantiqu, and then we have nutqun. This is basically pronunciation, and also this is masdar. The next lesson, inshallah, is going to be about masdar, so we need to be ready for that. Another beautiful lesson. Then we have mala'un, and then we have, in fact, mal'un, council of elders, and then we have amla'un. This is used a lot in the Quran as well. Burhanun, proof or evidence, and then with the plural is brahinu, on the pattern of mafa'ilu, mamnu min as-sarf. Fushatun is used for break or tea break. Fusahun and fusahatun, it has two plurals. Ilahun, and the plural is, what is it? Alihatun.
Aliha.
Alihatun, yes, aliha. And kilahuma, and the feminine is kiltahuma. Maqalun, article, and then we have maqalatun. So it's basically from qala yaqulu. Qawala yaqulu, yes, qala yaqulu. And then if we go to the root letters, and then we can figure out like why it is called like maqalun, and then we go into the depth, and then we can figure out like why they call it maqalun and maqalatun. Nahwun, syntax, study of sentence structure. It's basically, nahwun is basically dealing with al-i'rab wal-bina, like the first lesson of this book. So nahw basically means i'rab wal-bina. So basically, when we talk about a noun like being declinable or mabni, mu'rab or mabni, or when we say marfu, mansub or majroor, so that is basically nahw. And sarfun is morphology, anything that is related to the verb, that will be called sarfun, study of the forms of the words. So sarf, normally we don't use this for the noun, we use it for the verb. And similarly, nahw is not used for the verb, it is used for the noun. So basically we can say this is noun and this is verb, dealing with the noun and dealing with the verb. Dhanika, those two, feminine thanika, insirafun. Can you figure out the first form, the first and the second form? Past, insarafa, yansarifu, insirafun. Excellent. And this is also passive form of the verb. Like da'a, this is passive by itself. Then we have fakihatun, and the plural is fawakihu. Shahidun, and the plural is shuhada'u. So it has two plurals basically, shahiduna wa shuhada'u. As we have discussed that because this is ismul fa'il, so every ismul fa'il will have the sound plural. So, and then the Arabs, if they have used any other, then the second one will be the broken plural. So this is the broken plural, and shahiduna will be the sound plural on the pattern of fu'ala'u. Ghammad al-aynayn, yughammidu taghmidan, and to close the eyes, and this is verb form number 2. Khala'an alayni, yakhla'u khala'an, to take off the sandals. And then we have sahaba yashabu, because we have discussed today, so that's why tabba yatibbu, tabban, to perish, kafa yakfi, kifayatan, to be enough, and da'a yadiyu, as we can see here, to be lost. Kunna da'ina dhaka al-yawm, on that day we were lost, isn't it? So all of us, like including myself, we were lost. So that's why the verb itself means to be lost. And if you want to say we were lost, kunna da'ina, because da'a yadiyu, what will be ismul fa'il? On the pattern of
Dying.
da'i'un, hamza will be added. Why hamza will be added?
That needs to be dying.
Yeah, hamza will be added because this is ajwaf. So in ajwaf and naqis, you know that when we make ismul fa'il, and then we have to add hamza to that. Like the pattern of, we have the pattern of ba'i'un, so it will be da'i'un, da'i'ani, da'i'una. Kunna da'i'ina, we were lost. Rafa yarfa'u raf'an, to raise. We have, I'm sure we are very much used to it now. Marfu, mansub, and majroor, all this that we have been talking about. So this is basically rafa'a yarfa'u. A'ta yu'ti i'ta'an. It has also masdarin, a'ta and i'ta. So both of them have been, I think that this one hasn't been used, but ata has been used in the Quran as well. So what do you know about this verb? It requires
2 maf'ulain.
maf'ulain, yeah. So ata'un or so a'ta yu'ti i'ta'an, to give, and this is verb form number 4, aslama yuslimu islaman. ضبط يضبط ضبطا, to vowelize a word. So مع ضبط الأواخر, if you remember, we have been discussing about this a lot. So that's why it was when we say مع ضبط الأواخر, and that's why we say, because we use this, what do we call this? Masdar. So that's why it is ضبط. Then we have jannatun, and the plural is jannatun, and ukulun means to produce. All right, alhamdulillah. So yes, our lesson is complete. Inshallah, when we come back in the next lesson, we will start from that's lesson number 10, right? And that's also, mashallah, very interesting lesson. Any questions? So I hope, inshallah, this is beneficial. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this learning and teaching beneficial for all of us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وإياكم.